vision, leadership, workplace-related topics. The Voices of Victory podcast show. Subscribe today. Let's go.
Vision, leadership, self-esteem, workplace-related topics.
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision,
Voices of Victory.
leadership,
Voices of Victory.
workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
Hello and welcome to Voices of Victory podcast. I am your host, Mario Di Leone, and today we're going to talk about a very unique topic. It's called Not Every Hill is Yours to Bleed On. So this is all about the power of not debating and getting into it. A lot of people just jump into debates nowadays and, everybody's treating these arguments and fights online, and they debate with each other and they go through all this craziness. And quite honestly, this is just going to be a rule of thumb to support you, to help you understand. So welcome to Voices of Victory. This is the space where we reclaim agency, we anchor in clarity, and we remind ourselves that power isn't always in the push. Okay, sometimes it's in the pause. Sometimes it's in the strength and in the resolve. And this is going to be an underestimated form of leadership, which is really not debating with someone who is actually baiting you. And I want you to think of bait as putting bait on a hook in order to hook your ego and pull you right into it. And that's what some people will actually do. So the big question you want to ask people, especially when people want to step into a debate with you, is like, okay, why are we debating this to begin with? Like, why? Before you even think about entering a debate, pause and ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? Am I here to gain clarity with this debate? Am I trying to connect with somebody? Are they trying to connect with me? Am I educating someone who's open to learning? Because if they're not open to learning, you're going to be sitting there grinding a lot of hard work for nothing. Or am I just reacting because someone pulled me into it? So you have to ask yourself the big fat question. Before we get into a debate, and you could say this to somebody, before we get into a debate, what is the purpose of this debate? I think it's so important to outline that as a first idea. Why are we doing this? Are we trying to gain clarity with this conversation? Are we trying to connect with one another? Or am I educating somebody who's open to learning, if they're open? Because if they're not open, guess what? Sometimes it's not worth it. Or am I just reacting because someone, quote unquote, pulled me in? So if the answer doesn't involve mutual respect or shared growth or shared learning, then the debate is likely an annoying trap. And your energy is the prize. Because some people, and we're going to discuss it, some people just will be what we call a dry polemic. They'll argue just to argue, which is really kind of silly at the end of the day. But you can spot these people a mile away. So when they come looking for a fight in it, you have to understand. You have to notice how some people, they don't want to dialogue with you. They'll speak over you right away. They'll just talk constantly. And that's another thing, too. That's a red flag, a red conversational flag. It's like speaking over you constantly. And you have to tell people, please allow me to finish my thought. And if you can't say that, say, can you please allow me 1 minute of uninterrupted time? Set that tone, because they may just want to duel. They'll push your buttons. They'll twist your words. They'll try to, quote unquote, win. It's all about winning. It's all about feeding their ego instead of actually understanding and actually connecting with you. That's not a conversation. That's an egocentric performance. And you know what? You don't have to be their audience. Okay, we're not in debate class. That's the thing. So what do? You step off their stage. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because it actually is. So there are some responses that will reclaim your peace. There are some very good responses, which I want to discuss. And understand the real victory begins not proving a point, but refusing to get hooked into something that you may not even care about. So let me give you some solid responses just to keep your peace sacred. I'm going to start with the very first one, which I've used these before and they're very functional. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm clear on where I stand, and I no longer want to discuss this. Really simple. The second one, this isn't a productive use of my energy, and I don't find this conversation productive, because it's productive when two people come to an understanding. That's what you need to understand. You can say, this isn't a productive use of my energy. I'm choosing to not engage. Very simple. And the third one is, if this is about proving who's right, then I'm not the right person for you to talk to. I'm not going to get into a debate with you about it. It's fine. You have the right. You have the right to not get involved in conversations. Some people are arrogant. They just want to hook you in to hook you in. And another one is, I'm happy to have a conversation, but not an arrogant competition. So if you want to discuss it like human beings, we can do that. Another one is number 5. I value clarity and understanding, not conflict. So I'll pass on the debate. Another one, this is a famous one. We don't need to agree, and I'm okay with that, right? You've heard people say that before. It's like, I'll agree to disagree. I'll agree. And that could be the world's biggest cop-out, by the way. It really can be the world's biggest cop-out. Well, I'll agree to just disagree with you. Why don't you try saying, I see it another way, and I'm not interested in changing my mind? It's really quite simple. Or you could say, I hear your point, and I don't feel the need to debate mine or go any further in this conversation. You got to remember what I said earlier, a productive conversation. Productive conflict is when two people come to an understanding, and it's productive. If peace looks like silence, I'm going to take it right now. Thank you. Thank you for your time and energy. And just number 8. So these aren't dismissive, they're actually discerning. Because if you're in leadership, it isn't about proving your dominance, it's about protecting your center. That you don't have to engage. You have the choice to not engage. And you have to understand that if you engage, that it should be productive. And there should be some clarity and understanding involved. Because you know what? Nowadays, mental health is the victory. That's the heart of it. Your mental health, your emotional bandwidth, your nervous system, these are not collateral for someone else's BS arrogant argument. They're not bargaining chips. They're priceless, absolutely priceless infrastructure for your life. And you know what? The truth is, every time you let yourself get dragged into a pointless, unproductive debate, especially with somebody who's not listening and constantly speaking over to you, you trade your peace for a dopamine spike for them. And the crash, your emotional crash, will cost you. You'll feel it in your sleep. You'll feel it in your body. You'll feel it when you're trying to move forward. And some part of your energy is still stuck in that argument when it replays in your head and you're annoyed and mad 5 hours later, repeating that little script of the argument in your head. Don't bother. So let me say this clearly. Your mental health is more important than being right. Your peace is way more valuable than proving a point. And your stress levels are not someone else's unresolved need to be seen as the arrogant winner in front of everybody. So real leadership is choosing to not engage when the cost is your actual clarity. You don't have to engage. You can engage, but it should be productive. It should be very productive. And it can be productive when two people actually come to an understanding, right? That's what's really crucial. Two people can come to an understanding. You got to remember, they may try to just trigger you. That's the kicker. People who start debates out of just ego will just try to trigger you. They'll escalate, they'll interrupt, they'll talk over you, they'll needle you, they'll provoke you. You got to be able to breathe. Tell them to be mindful of their tone when they discuss things with you and avoid reacting. That's most important. And feel the need to delay your responses if you want. If other people are being difficult, you can say, listen, you seem pretty invested in this. I'm just not. Let's leave it right there. And if I feel like this is a respectful dialogue, maybe I'll rejoin in the future. Otherwise, I'll sit this one out. Thank you for your time. You don't owe anyone an emotional reaction just because they're loud and obnoxious. You don't. That's the deeper layer. And if someone needs you to lose your temper in order to quote unquote win because they want to appear right, they want to feed their ego in front of the crowd, they've already lost the argument and they know it. It's a cop-out, especially when they leave off with, oh, you know I'm right. Oh, you don't want to engage with me. You don't want to have a dialogue with me because you quote unquote know that I'm right. Let's dismantle that one. That's the oldest bullshit bait tactic in the book. The reason why you don't want to debate is because you know I'm right? Really? That's not confidence. That's big fat insecurity masquerading as boldness. Please. It's a way to guilt people into validating their one-sided argument. It's not about truth. It's about their control. And you can tell them, you know what? Not engaging, and this is so important, not engaging doesn't mean you're right. It means I value my energy and I value my time. So if you would excuse me, that'd be great. It's not about avoiding the truth. I'm avoiding drama. There's a big difference. Peace is my priority, not a scoreboard. And my mental health is my priority. And let's be real. If someone truly believed that they were right, they wouldn't need to shame you into a conversation and try to bait you. They'd stand in that truth without actually needing your participation. So that's what I mean by not every hill is yours to bleed on, and not every statement requires a response, and not every challenge deserves your presence. The real victory is knowing when to walk away and keep your peace intact. So you can approach it with some calm acknowledgement. Hey, I see this is important to you, but I don't think arguing is going to help about it. Why? They'll usually say why, because I'm not interested in changing my point of view. Or another one is really like, I understand how you feel, and I'll think about whether or not that's right for me. Or I hear what you're saying, but let's put a pause on it for now, especially if you have to be somewhere, go somewhere. Now, you could also set boundaries with people, which is really huge, and that's why this is really part and parcel to boundaries in a discussion. So I'm not in the right frame of mind to discuss this right now, especially if you're really not, you're having a bad day, like you don't need to get into it with people. Or I prefer to talk about this another time. My favorite one of them all literally is, this doesn't feel like a productive conversation. If they ask why, I say, I don't think there's any potential for both sides to actually truly understand and be receptive to the discussion. And that's the thing. When you argue with certain people, sometimes you're arguing with a person that's non-receptive. They're more about proving their point than they are actually about being receptive. I want you to remember that. Remember that, because if you sense that they're not receptive, that could be a good, strong sense that you don't even want to engage in the first place. If you're in the corporate workplace, it's going to be different. The rules are going to change. You're going to have to sit down and have an actual discussion with people. That it's going to remain productive, and both of us are going to come to an understanding. That you have to set that tone immediately. All right? And because it's about coming to an understanding with the person that's working for you and helping them, help them and ask them, help me to understand. If you're not understanding something, feel free to say, please help me to understand where you're coming from. I don't understand. Help me to understand. It's so powerful to use that. But when it comes to boundaries, you can just tell people flat out, this doesn't feel like a productive conversation. Let's leave it right there. Now, some neutral statements like I statements are really good. I don't think this is helpful, and I'm going to step back from this conversation. Thank you. Right? I'm not comfortable with continuing this discussion right now. Maybe some other time. Or I need some time to reflect on what you're saying before I even respond. Now, sometimes you have to shift gears, like in the workplace. It's like, listen, can we shift gears and focus on what needs to be done? Because sometimes you get people debating with each other and you're the leader there. Like, can we shift gears to what's on the agenda and work on what we need to work on today? Very important. Can we talk about something a little bit lighter, please? That would be great, right? Or can we focus on something that we all can enjoy talking about? And sometimes silence, no response is a response. Just calm. Okay. Nod your head. And you could walk away gracefully. There's nothing wrong with that. I need a moment to gather my thoughts. Some people get triggered real fast. I need a moment. I got to step back and I really have to process what you're saying. Can we revisit this later? Because I'm going to step away from this now. I'll talk to you when we're both ready. Right? So a lot of people use the agree to disagree. It seems we see things differently and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We may not agree, but I respect your point of view. And that's another key point. Now, sometimes common ground is valuable. It's like, I think we both want what's best here. Let's focus on that. And we share the same goal. Let's find a way to work toward it. Right? Another thing, too, is, I value my relationship with you over an argument. Now, that's not people pleasing. That's just understand. You got to remember the context in which I'm referring to. If the person is trying to bait you into an argument, that's what this podcast is about. They're trying to bait you and pull you into an argument. Right? That's the context. That I value that relationship. I don't want to even discuss this. This is not something I'm interested in talking about. So, don't be afraid to end the conversation. It's real simple. This conversation is not productive and it's going to stop here. It's going to stop right here, right now. That's how it's going down. And I think it's best to stop here. Right? I care about our relationship. This doesn't need to turn into a die on the mountain conversation. It doesn't need to turn into an argument. If you're wondering what power looks like, it's the person who doesn't flinch, who delays their response, who doesn't react, who doesn't chase validation and walks away and still feels whole, but most of all, takes care of their mental peace and their mental health. So this was Mario, Voices of Victory. Until next time, don't just lead loudly, lead wisely. And never be afraid to be direct and upfront with people. Because how you convey yourself, the tone that you set in a conversation could be the tone in the way that you wish to be spoken to. Have a great day. See you on the next episode.